early. But first, thanks to our wonderful sponsors. I don't know if you just saw the news, but average U.S. household debt just hit $152,000. That's mortgages, cars, cards, student loans, but the national debt just hit $37 trillion. It's all going up. Ask yourself this: when the system hiccups, who bails you out? It's not the Fed, not the politicians, and that's why I own gold. Gold doesn't need a CEO, doesn't need missed earnings, it doesn't freeze your account.
Atop Monroe Center in downtown Grand Rapids. We're talking about what matters most to you in West Michigan. Join the conversation now at 616-774-2424. That's 616-774-2424. It's West Michigan Live with Justin Barkley on Wood Radio.
Now, welcome in. Holy smokes. We got some turbulent skies ahead. We'll talk about the widespread issues that could be impacting flights this weekend, from cancellations to delays. It all looks like it may be ramping up because of Democrats and, again, the Schumer shutdown. I call it the Schumer Shakedown. That story and the latest on SNAP food assistance, a federal judge weighing in. We'll get to what he said. And by the way, they hit number 17. The 17th boat running drugs has been smoked.
News, weather, and traffic. And the biggest stories of the day. We're talking about what matters most in West Michigan and beyond. This is the Big Three. Now, today's Big Three.
Yeah, the stories about us should be talking about these around the water code. The dinner table, no matter where you are. Our good friends at Heartland Home Mortgage want to help you buy, refi, home equity line of credit. You got it. They'll help you. HHMlending.com. Now that rates are moving. Dave on the show, Dave Galloway, talking about this earlier this week. Give them a shout and see if they can help you today.
Number one.
Save thousands. Same as they did for us and so many others who listen to this very program. The FAA says the airport traffic could hit some turbulence over the weekend. Across the country, 40 airports may be impacted. Big ones like Detroit, like Chicago. They're all on the list for the reductions in flight traffic because of the fact that all these folks that are working there are working without pay. I think they're like 2 or 3 paychecks behind there. Air traffic controllers, some of the folks at TSA as well. The FAA saying it's had to slash its flight capacity by 10%. We're dragging into the second month here. Staffing with shortages already straining those folks. Travelers bracing for major delays today. Oh, and by the way, just in time for peak holiday traffic, again, the Schumer shutdown, I call it the shakedown, rolling on. The Senate could provide some relief today, though. I may vote on a 1-year partial funding package a little bit later on today.
Number two.
We'll get to some of those details. And I just saw that talking about paying the people that are working as we speak. Meanwhile, a federal judge has ordered the Trump administration to fully fund SNAP benefits and do it now. Okay, but where's the money coming from? It's not there. All they had at the USDA was enough for like half a month. That's $5 billion. You need $9 billion to fund the entire month. So where does the money come from? I can wave a magic wand and make proclamations in a robe like a silly little child, but how do you get it done? It's a food fight. That judge with the latest ruling doesn't really fix anything, but it certainly gives folks another opportunity for clicks and headlines in the war against Trump online.
Number three.
It really should be focused on Schumer. Speaking of war, though, the 17th boat cut down. Trump administration Secretary of War Pete Hegseth announcing the 17th deadly attack on a boat maybe filled with fentanyl headed our way. How many hundreds of thousands of people have died? Overdoses. Just absolutely tragic circumstances because of those drugs pouring into our country. And of course, the latest, I know there's some back and forth on this, but look, if our military is designed for anything, it's actually designed for this. It's designed to kill people and break things, and defending this country is like the number one issue, folks. Let's continue our conversations about what's happening across the country, but even a little bit closer to home, Lansing in our own backyard. Those same conversations roll on today with your chance to jump in on the phone line or MKD Funeral Homes, that talkback feature. Just hit that little microphone button and let it rip.
Call Justin now at 616-774-2424. That's 616-774-2424. West Michigan Live with Justin Barclay on News Radio Wood 1300 and 106.9 FM.
Keeping all the stories close. And on top of it all, our good friend joining us now, Kyle Olson, is on the line from the Midwestern, the Midwesterner.news. And boy, never a dull moment, never a shortage of any of these stories these days. Kyle, welcome, and we appreciate you taking the time to be here with us today.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So, I got a number of things. There's a big push right now to get rid of the MEDC. We interviewed Senator Thomas Albert. I think it was yesterday. Same day, there was a big announcement out of the House with Carr and DeBoyer saying they want to do the very same thing. That is that's the way they've been funneling, laundering money to their campaign contributors, et cetera, for the failed policies of the Whitman administration that just have bankrupted a lot of the state, unfortunately, and left communities in shambles, kind of like Big Rapids, Mecosta County, that Goshen fight, and the Green Charter Township still having to try and dig out of the financial mess of fighting all of that. So you've got that out there floating around, which I want to touch on today. I think that's a big one. The other thing is this data center. They are full speed ahead. Whitmer wants to get this thing done, this ChatGPT data center that's out there. And I noticed a little pushback from Nestle on this, which I think is kind of interesting, saying, look, we ought to go through the due process on all of this. I think there are a lot of people have lots of questions about this story. And then there's some new polling out there as well we got to touch on with candidates in the races coming up in 2026. Some of it might surprise some people. So we'll spin the wheel and start with MEDC. Since that's so fresh, we just talked about Goshen last week. What do you think? I mean, I really like to see this push. Are they just going to name it something else and take this shenanigans on the road and call it, I don't know, some other fancy name? Or are we really going to get rid of this idea?
Well, Matt Hall has said, so as you said, there's been some bills introduced in the House as well. And it's basically, well, let's take a step back. What we have seen from the MEDC is the strategy of throwing taxpayer dollars around to try and lure companies to come to Michigan. What we're seeing is that's not working. And then you add on top of that, Whitmer's strategy of, leaning into EVs and batteries and, all of that stuff, that also is not working because the Midwesterner has been publishing story after story of EV-related companies are closing, they're laying off workers, and a lot of these got MEDC money. And so the natural question is, well, what did we get for our money? And so there's this question about if we're giving hundreds of millions and billions of dollars to companies to come to Michigan. You just take Goshen, for example. That company got about $50 million, actually got about $50 million, not just pledged, but they actually got it. And the question is, where did the money go? But then also the MEDC, what are we getting for our money? And so people like Albert, DeBoyer, Cara, others are saying, maybe we need to do something different. Let's get rid of the MEDC and let's do something different. And Gretchen Whitmer said, if those bills make it to my desk, I'm vetoing them.
Sure. Yeah.
Speaker Hall came out and said they're not even going to get a vote.
Well, it's interesting. I wonder why that is. Is it just purely strategy because he knows they won't go anywhere? Or is he interested? Does he like the MEDC? Does he say maybe there's some good things here? Here's the thing. All the things that Democrats have been caught doing, right, with their pants down in the last 8 years or whatever, and including this MEDC stuff. If Republicans are about ready to take control of the state and win the race for governor, well, then Republicans are going to be able to do the same thing. So they will like this type of crony capitalism, which essentially citizens absolutely abhor at this point. There are a few that stand up, the Republicans, and say, here's an idea. Here's a great, call us nutty, but maybe we're not as batty as AOC or Mom Donnie or some of these other folks. But man, call us crazy. Here's what we should do. Let's just make it an appealing environment in the state of Michigan for businesses to come here, instead of picking winners and losers and using this fund as some sort of kickback scheme for campaign donors. I don't know. That's where I'm leaning here, Kyle.
See, again, this gets to the philosophy of how should we try to attract business? Should we try to attract some big, land some big fish, and potentially not land them, which is what's been happening, or should we try and land a bunch of little fish, and we might lose some, but we'll win some, or we'll land some, and we're better off as a whole. And so I think there's others. You take Bill G. Schuette. He is wanting to go after regulations. Maybe we can't land, big 2,500, 5,000, job projects, but maybe we can make it easier for restaurant owners to operate so they're able to hire a few more people. Because then if you've got thousands of restaurants hiring a few more people, well, suddenly that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so, and same thing with taxes. Maybe they should cut the income tax. Maybe they should cut property taxes. Maybe they should make it easier for everyone to operate in Michigan instead of picking and choosing and then failing.
Yeah. Kyle Olson, the Midwesterner, the Midwesterner.news. Fantastic conversation. And, this is a conversation that ought to take place, and I have a feeling it will over the next few months and into next year as folks are running for governor here. Secretary of State, Attorney General, having a lot of those conversations right here on this very program. Okay. That makes a great opportunity for a little bit of a transition, if you will. There's some new polling out there, and it's raising some eyebrows. I want to get into this. There's polling for the governor. There's polling for the Attorney General as Secretary of State. There's polling for the race for Senate, all these big races. But let's focus on governor and particularly the Senate races. Tell us what this stuff has revealed, because there's some interesting surprises inside some of this polling. The story up at the Midwesterner, the Midwesterner.news.
Yeah, it's interesting. First, Jocelyn Benson is running away with the Democrat nomination. I don't think that's a big surprise. On the Republican side, the poll finds that if the race is the way it is today, John James is winning by 31 points, which is, pretty consistent. If we believe polling,
this is assuming Duggan would,
with what we've seen.
This is assuming Duggan would take some votes away from Democrats.
That's just the primary,
right? Oh, okay.
Then in the primary, if the pollster added Tudor Dixon, who has previously said she's not running, but she's popular in the state. If the pollster added her to the poll and found she was winning by 8 points, I think it was 33 to 25. John James had 25, which is interesting because basically the pollster's takeaway was this is not a settled race, and John James' support is not solid.
Interesting.
And so what it showed is if there are alternatives to John James, he may have trouble, which is interesting. So then the Senate race, it basically is a toss-up between McMorrow and Haley Stevens and Abdul El Sayed. But then in the general election, it showed that Mike Rogers is winning overwhelmingly against against all of them. So that's interesting. But then, back to the governor's race in the general election. If it's a three-way race between, the poll found that James or Dixon both would win in a general election with Duggan on the ballot. But what it also found is that when voters know that Mike Duggan is a Democrat, he's running as an independent, but when they know he is a Democrat and has always voted for Democrats and has been a delegate for Democrats and all of that, Jocelyn Benson's share of Democrat votes drops to about 60%. She gets about 60% of Democrats. Well, there's no way she can win.
Yeah.
That there's just no path where she can get 60% of her party and still win, which is why I say, and I have been saying this for a while now, there is no way she will let Mike Duggan on the ballot, because she knows if she lets him on the ballot, that is her doom.
Okay, so that's my next question. What if Duggan doesn't end up on did they poll any of this? If Duggan doesn't end up on the ballot, or if he drops out and says, I've seen the light here and there's just no path to victory. And he goes, runs off to the sunset, takes some sort of cushy appointment somewhere that I'm sure just would be a coincidence.
This particular poll didn't test that, but the previous ones have found that Benson would win if Duggan is not on the ballot. And look, we talked about it before. She manipulates the ballot. Look at what she did in 2024. RFK wanted to be off the ballot, and she wouldn't let him because he would take votes. Theoretically take votes away from Donald Trump. Cornel West wanted to be on the ballot. She wouldn't let him on because he theoretically would take votes away from Kamala Harris. So she's very political. She knows how to manipulate the ballot. And I absolutely believe she will not let Mike Duggan on the ballot. She'll find a way to keep him off. Because think about it. Because I tell this to people and they say, well, he'll just sue. But look at the path of the courts. The Democrats control the courts up to the state Supreme Court.
Is there any hope or any possibility of the DOJ stepping in at all in something like this?
I guess it's possible. But this fundamentally is a state of Michigan issue.
Yeah, but when you've got a secretary, this is just horrible optics. When you got a Secretary of State who's conniving behind the scenes to stop people from getting on the ballot because it essentially may hurt her chances in her own race that she's overseeing herself, there may be an opportunity DOJ may step in there. I don't know though. That's not a lock, and I think you're right to question that. So let's just let me recap this, because I know there's a lot going on, folks. So here's the deal. New poll says Mike Rogers is likely to be the candidate for the Senate for Republicans. For Democrats, it's kind of a toss-up. But Mike Rogers against whoever that Democrat looks to be, Mike Rogers would win that race if it were today, according to that polling. Then in the governor's race, John James seems to be the candidate if all went as planned today and the primary was today. And on the Democrat side, Jocelyn Benson would be that candidate. Now in the three-way race, if Duggan is involved, the Republican wins. If that is John James or anyone else, I would imagine. But the weird thing here is also that if you threw Tudor Dixon in, which they just this poller just happened to do that she was more popular than any of the folks running in the Republican side of things right now. Now we're going to have her on to figure out whether or not that's something that she would even consider. Obviously, that's a whole nother situation altogether. But I think to your point, this shows lots of interesting strengths and weaknesses amongst the candidates and where things stand today. We'll have to this is a big one, so we'll have to continue to follow it up. And Kyle, we completely ran out of time to do this, but it's so big. Maybe you can come on next week and we can talk about this data center issue, because this is another one that ties into the MEDC, and I don't think the dust has settled on this. I know it sounds like it had a lot of fanfare last week when we discussed it and talked about it, but there's still a lot of pushback for this type of thing.
Well, and the new wrinkle that we reported yesterday is that Jocelyn Benson's husband was up until May of this year was a lobbyist for the company that's pushing the data center. So it's the swamp. With Jocelyn Benson, the swamp would continue in Lansing.
Unbelievable. All right, folks, let's continue the conversation. It rolls on after this. Don't go anywhere. We're back with more on West Michigan Live. Sword Radio.
Focused on what matters to you. It's West Michigan Live with Justin Barkley on News Radio Wood 1300 and 106.9 FM and on demand anytime on the iHeartRadio app.
November 7th, I'm Robin Kaufman. Governor Whitmer's administration is fast-tracking approvals for a massive AI data center in Saline Township. Locals oppose the project, but no one more excited about it than Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson's husband, Ryan Fredericks, who is vice president of a company forcing this data center on residents who want no part of this project. In other news, Michigan Congressman John James is leading Republicans in the 2026 gubernatorial primary, but a new poll suggests his support may not be as strong as it seems. The data suggests voters would prefer Tudor Dixon over James as a gubernatorial candidate. However, Dixon announcing back in July that she will not run for office in 2026 for governor, U.S. Senate, or any other seat. And the government shutdown starts day 38 today, the FAA reducing flights at 40 airports as a safety precaution. For these stories and more, visit The Midwesterner at themidwesterner.news.
You're listening to Leaf Filter Radio, and the guru of gutter protection himself, Chris Coonahan, is here to take your most pressing leaf-related questions.
Hey, everybody, Chris here. I understand we have Ron on the line. Ron, where are you calling from?
Uh-oh. Ron, are you calling from a ladder?
Well, I was.
All right, stand by, folks. We've got a couple of folks we got to test with on the line here in just a moment. Got a lot of moving parts this morning, but hang on, we're going to get back onto it. We're going to get to the news here in just a moment as well. Bottom of the hour, we got all of that and more coming up. Stand by, about a minute left here in our break. Dun, dun, dun. All right. Hey, say good morning to a few folks watching on the behind the scenes live stream over on Locals Today in the VIP. Good to see Gritter. Good to see you, Terry, Hemi, Tim the Road King. Good to see you guys. Panda's in the house. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Just $7 a month, folks. You can join over at justinbarkley.com/locals. As always, you help support this program. We really appreciate it. Join for a whole year and get a month free plus a copy of my book, Good News, Hope, and Encouragement for Trying Times. I'll sign it, send it to you. I see History Diggers, such a time as this. Tree Frog over on Rumble. SJ, good to see you too. Couple of folks over on the book as well, hanging out with us. We appreciate you. Sherry, Cindy, Sharon, Jennifer. Hang on, back on the air. Checking our bottom of the hour news on the way in just a moment. Stand by for that, folks. You got the latest and all of the updates. Of course, West Michigan Live rolls right along on a free-for-all Friday. You can join in after this, so don't go anywhere. I'm Justin Barkley. Hang on, folks.
Good morning. 51 on the Lakeshore, 47 in Grand Rapids. I'm Dave Wheaton. This is Wood Radio.
All right, just making sure. Hang on, got to test some lines here really quickly. See, Jason's in here. Jason, good to see you, man. How are you? Thank you for jumping in here with us.
You bet, buddy. How are you doing today?
Fantastic. Looking forward to the event this weekend. Jason's going to be at an event we'll tell you about with me tomorrow. And man, such a great topic. It's still, I think, people we did such a really great job here. The president really has of making sure that the border is secure and things continue to obviously develop. But it is still a very important topic because there's a lot that needs to be addressed on this. And I know you're going to shine a light on that. So thank you for all the work you've been doing. And thank you for joining us to do that. And just you look good. You sound good. I think we got you. Got to just make sure that, I think you're all set. Can you hang on? We'll probably be live with you in about 4 minutes.
You bet, buddy. How's this shot? You like this shot? Does this work?
Perfect.
Okay,
Looks
just
great.
making sure. All right, fantastic. Hey, it is good to be with you too, man. And thanks for having me back on. Really good to be with you today.
You got it. Stand by. Hang on 1 second. Let me check in with Kenny. Kenny, I don't see your video. There's your video. Hello. Hey, Kenny, we're going to let's make sure looks like you might be muted. You'll have to.
Sorry. Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me?
That sounds good. You look good. You sound good.
Great.
You got a little bit of a crackle there. Is it raining?
No, a little bit, but I do hear that little crackle. Yeah.
I don't know what that is. Now it's kind of gone away. We should be good. We're going to give you some time. We're going to probably get to you around 9:50. We had to bump some things around with Kyle. He went a little long this morning. Hopefully that's okay with you. Does that work?
No problem. Thank you
All
so
right,
much, man. I appreciate it.
You got it. My pleasure. Kenny's running for Senate here in Michigan at the state level, and he'll give you all the details. Got a chance to hang out with him at an event over the weekend, last weekend. Fantastic time with the folks at Barry, Ionia, Allegan County, and the Lincoln dinner they had there. Just a really good time. Lots of folks coming together. All right, let me get to, if I can, some of your comments in the chat here, if I can. Teresa says, I'm confused. Did I get here early or late? The time change was last week, Teresa. Did you miss the time change? Good morning. We're glad you're here either way. Hey, Diamond Dave. Good to see you from halfway across the world. Everybody, Diamond Dave is in Mongolia, by the way. Isn't that interesting? Bruce said, hey, thanks to the Midwesterner for showing us that they want to skip that public opinion and comment on the database storing facility being built here in Michigan. Yeah, they're trying to ram it through. And like I said, it's a big topic. I want to have Kyle back on to dive deeper into it because, again, I think it just highlights what's happened with the MEDC and everything else, especially with Benson's husband sort of, circulating through that whole thing. All right. Hang on, folks. Back on the air in maybe, let's call it a minute and a half, 90 seconds. Dave says, wait, I forgot about DST. We don't have that in Mongolia. So you're just, the clocks never change there? That does seem like it might be a little easier in my mind. I don't know. I just feel like, it might be. It's a little easier at times. Especially the springing forward. The falling back doesn't get me as much. But the springing forward, it is kind of weird. Now, I like having lots of daylight in the summertime here. I really do. So it'd be hard to kind of get rid of that in my mind. Because I like how it stays light till 10 o'clock at night. That's kind of nice. I do. But this time of year, we get so little daylight here in Michigan anyway. So little sunshine anyway. All right, back on the air here, folks. Stand by. We've just... probably about, I don't know, 30 seconds left here until we're back on. The behind the scenes live stream is what you're watching right now. If you're just tuning in thinking, what the heck is going on here? We do a radio show 9 to 10 live in West Michigan. And, of course, we stream that for you and folks across the state and even to places like Mongolia, where Diamond Dave is listening today. We appreciate you being here with us and hanging out. And we are back on the air. You get to see the good, the bad, and the ugly during the behind-the-scenes live stream. Just moments from now, we'll be back on. Here we go.
Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Hey, it's Glenn Beck, and you're listening to West Michigan Live with our good friend, Justin Barclay. The Glenn Beck program coming up at 10 on Wood Radio.
Free for All Friday. Calls at 616-774-2424. You can jump in there, or Justin at justinbarclay.com. Love to hear from you. Our next guest is a guest this weekend, the guest of honor. He'll be at this dinner and conversation, what they calling the American Shield dinner, happening at Noto's this weekend. I think there may still be time to get tickets. MIGOP3D.org for info on that. But it's a conversation that needs to take place. And you know how important it's been over the last several years, but particularly as President Trump now continues to make an impact on the border. We've had millions. In fact, maybe our next guest will shine some light on what he believes the actual numbers are on this, but millions upon millions of people pour across this border in recent years. And we are seeing, unfortunately, in the years leading up to this, the chickens come home to roost on this. Jason Jones is an expert in the field. You've seen him all over television, and he's been on this program before as well. Jason, thanks so much for joining us. And it's shining light, all your hard work on this conversation, the subject, but you're going to be talking more about it in depth this weekend at the dinner. Thank you, my friend.
No, buddy, it's good to be with you. And listen, for everyone listening, I want to say something here, and I mean this. My sincere congratulations on President Trump designating these cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. Because, Justin, if you've been watching, it has changed the southwest border. It has changed what is happening with these cartels in Mexico. And it's really illuminated now the South American problem, but also the hemispheric crisis that we're in. And now you see what he's doing down there, going after these drug boats moving in, massive amounts of cocaine into the country. But I will say it again and again. This is working. I truly mean it. It is working. And I told everyone, once we got these cartels designated as terrorists, you were going to see a major change in being able to make huge difference at the southwest border and in Mexico. And it's happening. And I look forward to talking with you about it, because it's great to finally report some good news, buddy, after many, many years of bad news.
I know that's right. Jason, what are the things that are happening? We hear about some of this behind the scenes. What are the things that are happening?
Two main points. First, the policy is right. The policy is total elimination of these cartels. Second, the foreign terrorism designation, which we worked for 8 years. I can't believe that I'm even saying that after losing over 100,000 Americans year after year, for so many years there. But what is taking place now is that the Sheinbaum administration has come to the table. And what we call phase one, they have now pushed 10,000 National Guard troops to their northern border. We've sent 10,000 of our soldiers to our southern border. And they're doing what they call mirroring operations. And that is, just to be very frank, it is shutting down these cartels at the southwest border. That's why the numbers of people now crossing are their lowest numbers ever recorded since CBP, U.S. Customs and Border Protection, began collecting data on people crossing. The other part of this, and it's the big win, that's a 57% reduction in fentanyl seizures at the southwest border. Now, why is that? Because President Trump has, in the initial stages, held the Sheinbaum administration to go after the labs in Mexico. And in phase one, what they're really doing is attacking the infrastructure. That's the ability to manufacture fentanyl and methamphetamine and these drugs, send it into the U.S., but also to stop the weapons going south and the money going south. And if you can break that cycle, then you can then go to attacking the network. Now, I've been embedded with the Mexican government not once, not twice, but 3 times. I've been down into Culiacan, Sinaloa, seeing the operations. One of the labs that we went to, man, I've got to tell you, this thing produced 200 kilos of methamphetamine a day. It was massive in what we see here, but we've never seen before. And they're going after me. Take a long time, but it's good to report great news and great things that are happening. We've got a long way to go, don't get me wrong. But the data right now is that we've got a 32% reduction in homicides in Mexico just in 1 year. So for all the viewers listening, that is huge. That's 27 people a day whose lives are being saved in Mexico. Now, why does that matter to you? It matters because what that means is as violence is impacted in Mexico, it directly impacts us here in the U.S. And that's why we see a 24.5% reduction in overdose deaths. This is in less than a year, Justin. So it's great to finally report good news. Now, what's the why to this? It is the policy, and it is the foreign terrorism designation and the new authorities that we have.
It seems so common sense when he talked about these policies and what he wanted to do. By the way, as you mentioned, this is what you voted for. I call it the find out era. We're in the find out era right now. This is the time when people, this is what we voted for. He's put these policies into place, and it's almost like somebody's flipped a switch overnight. We've seen, less folks coming to the border. We've seen less of those materials and narcotics, and also, trafficking, not just of the drugs, but of people. I'm sure you have some stories that would just shake people to their core on this stuff.
I'll tell you, when we first began seeing the Gulf Cartel putting wristbands on men, women, and children, I saw children as young as 2 years of age, and their little wrists would just be wrapped with these wristbands around them. That was so overt. In the old days, the cartel would have absolutely slaughtered and killed their own people for dare thinking they could do that, because they never wanted their operations visually seen like that. But this had become such a big problem, We did not have a trafficking problem. We had a smuggling problem. That's absolutely true. But we did not have a trafficking problem. And now that virus is among us. And so you have people in our country. Remember, you have three forms of human trafficking. You've got commercial sex, you got forced labor, and you have another one most Americans are not aware of, which is debt bondage. So now we have millions of people from all over the world in our country illegally, but yet they are indebted to a terrorist organization in Mexico or in another foreign country. This is a place we've never been to before. And that's why the terrorism designation was so important, why we worked so hard to get around a broken Department of Justice model that for 50 plus years wasn't working. And we're seeing incredible results, Justin. It's not a perception, man. It's not a feeling. The data shows that this is working.
Yeah. Jason Jones with us right now. He'll be speaking this weekend. As a matter of fact, if you'd like to be there at the American Shield dinner. And of course, folks still, I think, may have an opportunity to get those tickets as we speak. But it'll be a great dinner. I'll be there along with some other folks. Good friend Gabe Schulman is an artist who will actually create artists that are Yeah. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Looks like we may be losing Jason a little bit. But you can see him more again this weekend. Jason, we're losing you just a little bit on our connection here. But I just want to give you a quick moment, if you can, to let folks know where they can follow your work. If they're unable to be there this weekend, they can follow you online and see, keep up to date with all of these stories, because they are so critical. They continue to be.
And it matters because it's saving the lives of the American people, period. I mean that. And that is, as somebody that's crossed this country, I've talked to so many mothers and fathers who've lost their loved ones and who really felt that their government had abandoned them, because they had. That's the truth of it, Justin. The American who's lost someone they love the most in the world, they had been abandoned, and now that's changing. And this terrorism designation is holding accountable those cowards in Washington, but also those cartels in Mexico, all the way to South America. And to the folks that won't be able to be there tomorrow night, hope you can make it out. We're going to have a great event. I'm going to show you what no one else is showing you directly from Mexico in videos that are taking place, directly impacting us. But if you want to find me, I'm on Newsmax every day, and we're showing what's happening and getting it out there to the folks. And Justin, great to be with you today.
You got it. My pleasure. Thank you for taking the time away from TV to do this. Jason Jones on Newsmax. And we'll give you the links to follow him online as well in our stack today. Thank you, my friend. See you tomorrow.
Looking forward to it. Absolutely.
God bless. More coming up in moments, folks. You can join us again. The after show will be coming up a little bit later on today. We never have enough time to get to it all. We do our best. The fastest hour on radio flying by. I'd still yet to hear from Kenny Clevenger, who's running for state senate here in Michigan. He'll jump in on the conversation, and you can too. You want to jump in on a free-for-all Friday? We are back after this on West Michigan Live.
Reaching past the headlines. It's West Michigan Live with Justin Barkley on News Radio Wood 1300 and 106.9 FM.
Here are your headlines from the Midwesterner this Friday, November 7th. I'm Robin Kaufman. Michigan Congressman John James is leading Republicans in the 2026 gubernatorial primary, but a new poll suggests his support may not be as strong as it seems. The data suggests voters would prefer Tudor Dixon over James as a gubernatorial candidate. However, Dixon saying back in July that she's not going to be running for office next year. Governor Whitmer's administration is fast-tracking approvals for a massive AI data center in Saline Township. Locals oppose all this, but no one more excited about it than Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson's husband, Ryan, who is a vice president of a company forcing this data center on residents who want no part of it. And here in Michigan, don't be surprised if your flight is delayed or canceled. The FAA is slowing down air traffic by 10% starting today into next week as a safety precaution as the government shutdown rolls on. For these stories and more, visit the Midwesterner at themidwesterner.news.
This November, there's an evening that changes.
All right, folks, rolling right along. Thank you so much for being here with us today. I got to try and get to some of you folks in the chat. I know that you got some interesting comments I'd like to consider and weigh in on. Throw them out there if you like to get them up. Rumble Rants, we'll take one of those. They get read first today. And our good friends and locals and the VIPs will make sure that we get to yours as well, because we always appreciate you and your support. Let's go back to Kenny just to make sure that the line looks good. I think he's sitting there waiting for us. Kenny, can you, let's see, make sure you're not muted. Let's see. You look good.
Yep. Thanks. You too.
Fantastic. Thank you, man. You sound good. You look good. Kenny's running for states. Now, what's your website? I want to make sure that we got, I think I got it here, but I want to make sure we get the right one.
Yeah. countonkenny.com.
Oh my God. Perfect. Okay. Here you are and your beautiful family on the website. We got you. For some reason, it's cutting off your eyes. But
great. Well, I'll have them look into that.
You would say, look at that beautiful family, though. Holy cow.
It gets everybody else, right? That's the real beautiful side,
Spoken like a true dad, I would say the same thing. Exactly. But you can get to know Kenny, find out more about his platforms and, of course, what he's running on and running for. And Kenny's highly involved, probably familiar with him. He's a guy that, again, we got a chance to catch up over the last weekend. And I thought, Kenny, we got to get you on the air, man. You got your race is part of our listening area here. You're going to be representing. So we'll do just that here in just a moment. Kenny's going to give you the latest and what he did. There's a lot, I think, probably we won't have nearly enough time to cover it all as we do each and every day on this other stuff. But there's a lot for us to talk about today. So we'll get into that, man. Thank you so much for taking the time. Stand by.
Thank you.
You got it. All right, folks. Rolling right. I think we got about like a minute left till I got to get back on the air here. Bum, 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 bum. Bonnie says Kenny looks like a young James Taylor. Very handsome man, Bonnie says. Think you might have Bonnie's vote, but she lives in New York City. So, Kenny, I don't know what to tell you about that one, but hang on. Wait a second, folks. We're back on the air. We got 40 seconds left. John Thune speaking right now on Fox News. Likely Senate test vote on the new funding plan happening today. Will they get this thing back open? We'll find out, and what all of that means here in just moments. Bum, 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 bum. All right, hang on, folks. Here we go.
Set now on our iHeartRadio app. Powered by Michigan Auto Law. Auto accident attorneys. Visit autolaw.com.
That's autolaw.com.
You're listening to News Radio Wood 1300 and 106.9 FM.
Thank the folks at the Good Feed store today and every day for powering this program. Not just, while we're on the air, but probably most importantly while I'm off the air. Because it keeps me going, keeps me on my feet. I tell you, I got a couple of these big events. Got one tomorrow night. If you want to know more about that, I'll put it up on the stack again. Our good friend Jason Jones, who just joined us a moment ago. But I had one last week where I met our next guest and we had a great conversation. These events, you got to stay on your feet. You got to be comfortable. It's not just foot pain, back pain. I've dealt with all that, but now you can wear dress shoes. You can wear all the shoes that you want to wear, and you need to wear to keep you moving and grooving where you need to be, right, on a daily basis, whether it's chasing after my kids or staying on top of the issues that matter most for my kids. Folks at the Good Feet store help me do that. You could step into the Good Feet store on 28th Street, right in front of Costco, or in Portage on Westnedge in front of Kohl's. Great place to get out and do that this weekend so you can just see what I've been raving about, those personalized arch support systems at the Good Feet store. All right, up next, our friend Kenny Clevenger, who last week, as I mentioned, I got a chance to have a great conversation. Kenny is... You might know him or recognize him. He's been in part of the politics and force for a while now, but he's stepped up, deciding he's going to run for state senate. Now, what again is the district that I sometimes get these confused, but this listening area, if you can hear me on the radio here, Kenny would be representing portions of it. So let's talk about what that would look like too. Welcome in, Kenny.
Good morning. Thank you.
So what's the district? And I know it covers a lot of area. The way they've sort of done these up, we've seen that over the last few years. It's kind of, they can get confusing.
So the Kent County portion of the 20th Senate District would cover Byron and Gaines Township, and then it reaches down into the middle third of Allegan. So it takes Allegan, it splits into three, that middle section. It takes all of Van Buren County except for Antwerp, one township pulled out, and then it wraps down into the northern portion of Berrien County, so St. Joe, Benton Harbor, Lincoln Township, Royalton, that area right there. It stretches all the way from Lincoln Township down in St. Joe all the way up to Byron and Gaines Township.
So let's talk about your background. You're currently the chair of the Allegan County GOP. You've seen a lot. You've done a lot. You've got some unique perspective for this job, it sounds like.
I got elected as the secretary of the Allegan County Republican Party in 2020. And really it was a group of people that came together that, they wanted to grow the party, right? They wanted to be able to expand the party. We knew that we needed to grow and we needed to change course, kind of, right? And so a big group kind of came in, and then I got elected chair in 2022. I got reelected as chair in 2024. And then I served as the chair of chairs for the Michigan Republican Party during 2024's election season. So I'm very engaged with the party and the base on what's going on. And I always point out that it's really hard to become the chair of a county party if you're not a true vetted conservative.
I would guess that's probably a good point. So what do you think needs to change at this level of governance here in Michigan? You've been keeping your eye on this. I'm sure you get a chance as a party chair to hear from all the people all the time on these things. What are you wanting to bring to the table, and what are you looking forward to seeing change most? I think I'm going to be in probably one of the most pivotal years we've seen in a long time here in Michigan in 26.
I think I told you at the dinner, my 88-year-old grandfather lives with my wife and I and our 6 kids. And I grew up hearing stories, about this place called America, right? He grew up in the 50s and, he could make $1 an hour and he could raise a family. He could buy a home, right? He could have a car. He lived in this place that the land of opportunity, right? And I think where we went wrong is that we really leaned into this belief that government was the solution. And I think we've seen the failure of that. And so a big part of my campaign is really the solution is we just have to let freedom ring again in Michigan, right? We need to, government is in every facet of our lives, education, business, right? And we're seeing the ramifications of that, right? We're not growing as a state. And when you look at a lot of these companies that are leaving Michigan or they're closing shop, they're not just going out of business. They're going to Texas. They're going to Georgia. They're going to Indiana, right? Because they have lower utility costs. They have better infrastructure that's already put in place. And so to me, let freedom ring. Get rid of the regulations, cut the red tape, cut taxes, give people their money back, and they'll be able to make ends meet. And so that's my commitment is, how do we repeal laws, right, that have gotten in the way? How do we relook at regulations and say, hey, they're not working? You're just talking earlier about the MEDC. We've seen the history of that, right? Is it working? Is it getting us results? I don't know. I'm not really seeing it. I also served as a South Haven school board trustee during the pandemic, and I just recently was reelected as the Casco Township treasurer. And I feel I have a unique perspective of being a local elected official, being a local representative, that we need to quit putting this belief in some big corporation that they're going to come save our problems. I think the way we save our problems is by investing in our local communities, right, in our townships, in our schools, things like that. And that's really what's going to get us the growth.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more when we look at what matters most in these scenarios. And by the way, you're a young guy. I mean, you're kind of, you're a dad, right? Of how many do you have? Is it 5 kids that you have?
6. We got 6. We just had the 6th baby girl a month ago.
So he took that, be fruitful and multiply. He took that seriously. By the way, you can see him if you go to the website, and you'll be able to help him join Team Kenny as well. But countonkenny.com. And I love this fact because as a dad, like I said, you're a young guy. You got plenty of road ahead of you, but you've got plenty behind you too. You're really in a kind of a sweet spot in life right now, where you've seen a lot. You've really contributed quite a bit with your previous service as well to be able to see a lot of the different problems and the things that are ahead. But this gives you, I think, perspective to understand, what needs to be done as you get to work in Lansing. Kenny, if people want to help, they want to maybe join the cause, what's the best way? Go to the website?
Yeah, countonkenny.com would be great. You can fill out something there. Also, I do Facebook. I've got a Facebook page, Kenny Clevenger for State Senate as well. And I'm really just committed, Justin. I've been on the front lines of the conservative movement, right, within the party, and I always remind people, the big point of the party, right, is to get conservatives elected, right, getting our proven, vetted conservatives into office so that they can make a change. And so I've put my time in. I've worked as in the party, and I think it's time now to go give them hell in Lansing.
You got it, Kenny. Thank you so much for joining us. Kenny Clevenger, countonkenny.com. More on the stack, too, if you want to catch up with the stories we mentioned or the links we were talking about, Jason and Kenny, and stories from the Midwestern today. JustinBarclay.com. Back with you Monday. In the meantime, the Glenn Beck program's next in our after show, firing up in moments. West Michigan Live. Make a great one. God bless.
Our Father, who art in the heavens, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses. We forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, deliver us from evil. God is the kingdom, power, and glory forever and ever. Amen. Amen.
WOOD Grand Rapids, WOOD FM Muskegon. The news is next on Wood Radio.
NBC News focuses on the facts, looking deeper and listening wider. It's clear reporting.
All right, folks. Man, a couple of really good guests, or 3 of them actually today. Kyle, Kenny, and Jason. Fantastic. Like I said, we'll make sure that all of the information up on Stack today. If you want to get that too, that'll be up and running. Let me see. I got to move a couple of things here. Yeah, that should work. And then we'll get flying with the after show. So I got some programming notes to let you know about today, too. I actually have a couple of bonus broadcasts for people listening today. So stand by for that. We'll do some bonus broadcasts. Ba-bum, bum, bum, ba-ba-bum. Folks on locals are going to love this, by the way. Here we go. Get ready to strap in. It's going to be a heck of a ride. It's like drinking from a fire hose. Never a dull moment, but yes, you'll hear the stories you won't hear anywhere else, and we appreciate you being here with us for them today. I'm Justin Barclay. Yeah, welcome in, folks. It is the show after the show. Yep. The after show is here. And new gear, too, in the store at justinbarclay.com if you haven't looked at it yet. I think we might have some new goodies coming in the next few. So make sure you get in there and do your shopping. We got Christmas on the way. Got a programming note or two for you as well. Coming up today, I think we're looking at 10:30. We'll have some conversations, bonus content for you. We'll record our podcast for this weekend. We meant to do this earlier this weekend. It was tough. We had some rescheduling. We had to do Brad Brandon, who's with Across Nigeria. He's got a ministry there in Nigeria, as we've heard Christians being massacred, slaughtered in that area because of Muslims and just the threat that you don't get to hear about. I want to make sure that we're shining a light on people know about it. We can pray. We can help in other ways. President Trump has pledged some help and support there too, but that'll be at 10:30 today. Then 11, another Maha moment, a chance to talk to Maha Missy coming up. And if you want to watch all this behind the scenes, I'm not going to stream it all on Facebook, Rumble, Twitter, Locals, and all. It'll be on Locals. It'll be for Freedom Fan members. So it's worth today if you haven't done it yet. It's Friday. Maybe it's payday. Plunk $7 down. Forgo that, bougie, highbrow, expensive coffee. Those people that hate us anyway. Might as well support the cause. And of course, come on over. And if you join for a full year over on Locals in the VIP, you'll get a month free and a copy of my book, Good News, Hope, and Encouragement for Trying Times. So we'll get that out to you as well. Cancellations and delays hitting the airports across the country right now. Fox reporting
people are worried about their holiday flights. The travel is really, really important because the people, there's holiday travel, but there's business travel. Business travel is a really big, important part of air travel. And so the ripple effects and then the multiplier effects of all that are really, really large.
New hour begins now. Peter Ducey reports from the White House. Grady Trimble is at Reagan National Airport. We start there. Grady, hello.
Bill, good morning to you. The airlines had to scramble with just a few days' notice to cancel hundreds of flights at some of the country's busiest airports after the FAA ordered them to make those cuts. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy stopped by this airport this morning to meet with passengers and check in with them on how their travel's going. And for some of them, it's not well.
How would you rate the airline's response, and what would you say to passengers who are frustrated with cancellations and delays?
The airlines have been good partners. They don't love this. They're going to lose millions of dollars because of this. It's challenging for them to take down flights. And to those passengers that are upset, listen, call your Democrat senator. 14 times they voted no to open up the government.
Here's that misery map again. Right now, there are more than 800 cancellations across the country today. This comes after a rough day for delays, with more than 7,000 of them yesterday, another 1,000 of them today. Here's how this FAA plan will work. Today, tomorrow, and Sunday, the FAA is requiring airlines to cut 4% of their schedule. That number will gradually ramp up to 10% by the end of next week. The reason for this, air traffic controllers are about to miss their second full paycheck since the shutdown started. There's been low staffing levels because they've been calling out, and that is what's putting pressure on the system. The airlines are telling passengers that if you can't make your flight or don't want to fly right now, you can cancel, get a full refund, even if one of your flights is not impacted. But that speaks to what the Transportation Secretary said, Bill. They are losing millions of dollars because of this.
All right, Grady,
Bill?
Can't go on for long. We hope.
I don't know about you, but I do not. They say can't go on for long. Maybe they'll get some movement today. I don't know about you, but I don't see this. I've tried to game out a way that this all comes to an end, and I'm to tell you what I think is the problem. Democrats want to burn it down. They don't care who they hurt in order they can stop Trump. There's no solution here. They're outright, flat out lying about it. The media is doing what they normally do, supporting all of this. And at the end of the day, people are actually hurting. And like I said, they don't care who they hurt. The people that are working air traffic control, TSA, et cetera, their people are hurting. The Democrats don't care. They're relying on their base and you being too stupid to know the truth, too brainwashed by the mainstream media to be able to see what's really happening. And just ignorant of the facts of how the process plays out, which is, look, you got to have 60 votes to get this thing done. That's the rule in the Senate now. The only way to stop this is if they were to get rid of that rule, which is the filibuster rule in the Senate. Now, let's walk that through. If they do that, you got two things that are going to happen. Number one, they say, well, then we can get a lot through. We can get a lot past that we would have had to have 60 votes for previously. Maybe this helps us a lot, quite a bit. But then you've got the other side, the flip side of the Democrats who are going to possibly use this down the road. They've already said they want to pack the Supreme Court and all these other things. They want to do all these different things that'll make America you really unrecognizable. And then you have the other piece of this, which is what they're going to say. And I told you this yesterday. How do you answer this? Well, if you could have stopped all this a long time ago, Republicans, you had the chance, you had the opportunity to stop this a long time ago. Why didn't you? Oh, my. And that is going to be the key in all of this. And I don't think at the end of the day, I don't really think, I don't see Republicans having the cojones. Trump has asked them to do this, but I just don't see, do you see anybody? Do you see anybody having any of the cojones here to get this done? I just don't see it. So there you have it. That's part of the. That's part. I wish I had a little bit more of a rosier outcome on all of this, but I don't. I will tell you some weird things happened yesterday. We're going to talk about this in our Maha update with our good friend Maha Missy coming up a little bit later on today. But did you see in the Oval Office, they were set to make some big announcement on Ozempic or something like the Novo Nordisk people were they were in the Oval for this. And it was so weird. The guy that was there, one of the guys in the big pharma executives in the office there with the president and everybody else passes out. Guy passes out. They were going to make some announcement, I think, about Ozempic and drug prices, which is interesting. And look what happens now.
You okay? Gordon, you okay? Yeah.
Dr. Oz immediately rushes over. A couple of guys go out to get some help. President Trump stands up with concern. Now, I'm going to tell you, you're going to see some pictures floating around today. And you get probably a lot of criticism about this. There's one picture that's floating around that shows President Trump not interested, like he's bored to be there. That's just not the case.
Gordon, you okay?
If you see what the video actually shows, this guy sort of collapses.
Yeah.
The doctors are helping Trump there, probably trying to. And by the way, this is all live on television. I think they had to delay. Maybe they put off the announcement. I don't remember. You see these guys walking out. The Secretary Kennedy. He notices what happens, and you see him. He gets up. He goes, "Let me go get some help." So he goes to get help. This other guy goes to get help. They're going to say that those guys fled, and then they're going to say Trump is disinterested or bored as this is happening. Just so you know, that's the playbook. I've already seen some of that popping out. But see, just the reaction is strange. Bobby's not a doctor. He's going to get a doctor. He's going to get help right outside the doors here. See, that's what I'm saying. We got to be careful whenever we like sort of Monday morning quick anything and all of this. I think the only doctor in that room was Oz. I don't I don't know what else anybody. Well, Sherry, that's my point. What's Trump supposed to do? That's what I mean. Is like, you say, is there a doctor in the house? He can hit the red Diet Coke button on the desk. I don't know if that's. But they did respond to it. The reason I'm bringing this up is we're talking big pharma, and we'll have this conversation in our chat a little bit later on with Maha Missy. But isn't it interesting? Big pharma, and they keep pushing these things on us. We're watching a guy who represents big pharma in the Oval Office collapse. The symbolism there it's just not lost on me. I don't know. Maybe I'm the only one, but does anybody else see that and go, wow, that's an interesting moment? That whole thing, I don't think that worked the way they thought it would. Anyway, I just see things like that, and it makes me sometimes, it makes me kind of, I don't know, makes me kind of scratch my head and wonder. Hey, by the way, we know that Pelosi is retiring now. President Trump has actually spoken out about it. Didn't mince words. This was in the Oval. I don't know if this is the same meeting or if this is a separate meeting. Listen to what he said.
I think she's an evil woman. I'm glad she's retiring. I think she did the country a great service by retiring.
He said, I think she's an evil woman. I'm glad she's retiring.
I think she's an evil woman. I'm glad she's retiring. I think she did the country a great service by retiring. I think she was a tremendous liability for the country. And on Dick Cheney. I thought she was an evil woman who did a poor job, who cost the country a lot in damages and in reputation. I thought she was terrible.
You know what she'd do? We should put her in charge of the country's, retirement fund. She did so great with herself with her own their own investments. We should put her in charge of the country as a whole. Speaker Johnson, Trump wasn't the only one. Speaker Johnson also spoke out. Trump's going to be the only one you're going to get that's that type of response.
The old guard has been repudiated, and the radicals are taking over the Democratic Party. We have evidence now every day. Yesterday, Jared Golden announced he would not be running for re-election in the state of Maine. He's a moderate, and he has no place in his party anymore. And then this morning, you saw the headline. Former Speaker Nancy Pelosi has now announced her retirement this morning. That is a very important sign that I hope that you all will delve into. Even the famous San Francisco liberal is not far left enough for the neo-Marxists. We commend her for her services. We all do, everyone who serves in Congress, but there should be a lot written about that.
There should be a lot written about that. Yeah, it just doesn't quite have the same way with words as President Trump does. Here is Trump on the filibuster, killing it once and for all.
Remember, Republicans, regardless of the Schumer shutdown, the Democrats will terminate the filibuster the first chance they get. They will pack the Supreme Court of the United States, pick up 2 states, that's a lot of states, and add at least 8 electoral votes. Their 2 objectors are gone. Remember, Sinema and Manchin, they're gone. Don't be weak. Don't be stupid, Republicans. Fight, fight, fight. Win, win, win. We will immediately end the extortionist shutdown, get all of our agenda passed, and make life so good for Americans that these deranged Democrat politicians will never again have the chance to destroy America. They tried to destroy your country. Republicans, you will rue the day that you didn't terminate the filibuster. Be tough, be smart, and win. This is much bigger than the shutdown. This is the survival of our country. Terminate the filibuster, and let's live the great life that this country is capable of living.
That's pretty strong. I really don't. There's no way for us to get out of the mess that we're in a weak need response. There's just no way for us to get out of the mess that we're in, as bad as it is, for us to play games like, hey, it's business as usual. You just can't. By the way, Trump's not the only one who's called to end the filibuster. In fact, Obama has as well.
By guaranteeing that every American citizen has equal representation in our government, including the American citizens who live in Washington, D.C. and in Puerto Rico. They're Americans. By ending some of the partisan gerrymandering so that all voters have the power to choose their politicians, not the other way around. And if all this takes eliminating the filibuster, another Jim Crow relic, in order to secure the God-given rights of every American, then that's what we should do.
Not a lot of applause on that. I don't think they really understood what he was saying. But good, again, you go back, and this is archive footage. This isn't recent. Of course, they're all saying that he never said this now. And the mainstream media will argue with you. He never said this. Well, it's Timo Obama as well. Hakeem the Dream is we got the footage. I think this is from 2021.
Congressman, you tweeted yesterday that the filibuster is a racially tinged artifact of the Jim Crow era. We cannot let it stand in the way of progress.
High priority issues for the American people that are being held up in the Senate right now because of the presence of the filibuster. And so a minority of senators are allowed to block progress for the majority of the American people. And that's something that has to change. Filibuster was first deployed by Senator Calhoun in the run-up to the Civil War to try to protect white supremacy as well as the institution of slavery. And then in terms of its modern form, it was really deployed in the early part of the 20th century to stop civil rights legislation, including anti-lynching legislation that passed the House of Representatives in the early part of the 20th century, but could never break through a Senate filibuster. And that is part of the legacy of the absence of progress that we're still living with to this day.
So Trump said it. The Democrats get back in power, they're going to do this. And they're going to push everything through in the Mom Donnie sort of style and way that they'd like to see things change. You know what they want to do. AOC running things in the Senate when she gets there. That's what we ought to be. We ought to be aware of. We ought to be very aware of. Maybe it's time. I'm just saying, maybe it's time to take a closer look at all of this. Just some more food for thought. We told you yesterday that Thanksgiving prices, the turkeys at Walmart are going to be their lowest price they've been in 6 years. I think 2019, since 2019. We know that Aldi's got the lowest price on Thanksgiving they've had, I think, in the last 4 years for a family of 10 getting together. You could do Thanksgiving for just $40. It's $4 a person. It's incredible. We see that these, despite what we're being told in the media, and look, I'm not saying that prices have completely come back down to where we want them, but gas prices are on the move. Food prices, in some ways, in some cases, are on the move. Not all of them. But we've seen a lot of good adjustment, and this type of thing doesn't get the light of day. There's a guy that I don't agree with on everything, but here he is on Fox Business from Gas Buddy, Patrick DeHaan, guy originally from Grand Rapids. I didn't think he's a big Trump fan either, just to be completely honest with you. But he's out there saying, hey, look, gas prices aren't the problem.
But the good news is, Stuart, that when you look at what Americans are making, what they're taking home, gas prices taking just 1.5% of their take-home income, and that's at multi-decade lows. So even though gas prices are still above that $3 gallon mark and just barely, we're seeing less of a pinch on Americans' wallets as they hit the road for things like Thanksgiving and into the holidays.
At the moment, you're right, the average for regular gas, nationwide, the average is 308 at this point. But if you were to take out some of these West Coast states, especially California, take them out of the average, then the national average for regular would actually drop way down below $3 a gallon, I think. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely, Stuart. All you'd have to do is take out California. That represents about 10 or 15 cents a gallon, especially as California's state average has been going up. Some refinery issues there. $4.69 a gallon for the statewide average there. You're still going to find areas of California where some stations are $5 or $6 a gallon. Meanwhile, on the other side, the Gulf states, Mississippi, Texas, Oklahoma, home to some of the cheapest prices, Stuart, and hopefully you're sitting down. You're going to want to get a gas tanker. But yesterday, reports of a wholesale club in Austin, Texas, that is still selling gasoline at $1.98 a gallon.
Wow. A one handle on a gas price.
That's incredible. There's a wholesale club in Texas selling gas at $1.98 a gallon. So like a Sam's or a Costco, BJ's, that type of thing. $1.98 a gallon. So look, folks, this is data. These are facts.
But the good
it's think about this. Again, they're saying if you look at what Americans are making, gas prices are just taking 1.5% of their take-home income. That's multi-decade lows. Now, you got to feel it. In order for this to have consequences into an election, you got to feel it. And there's a psychological thing that happens when the gas price drops from $3 down in the $2s, even if it's $2.99. There's a weird psychological thing that happens. And it hits us all. You start to really add up, like, how much am I really saving? How much? So I got a 20-gallon tank. You know, I mean, we got to talk some big swings. And right now, I'm still filling up. It said they got $3.29 a gallon in some of these gas stations by me. Sam's Club still got it for $2.78. I think there's some games being played with some of the speedway up and down, back and forth that happens in West Michigan. And I hate it. I absolutely hate that. But $2.78 versus $3.29. I mean, you're talking about 50, 60 cent difference. I'm going there all day long because now you're talking about I'm going to save $10 or more. Yeah, I'll wait. I'll even wait in line. I'll wait in line for sometimes for $10. I don't know. It's just a psychological thing all day long. But especially if I can fit it into what I'm doing and where I'm going. Just a little bit of good news. Speaking of good news, she's holding strong. Sydney Sweeney did an interview. She sat down with one of these GQ. I think it was GQ itself, but I was going to say one of these GQ types. This is like a leftist trying to be like a gotcha interview. And they really wanted to press her on the jeans ad, the Sydney Sweeney jeans ad that was done for, was that American Eagle? Is that what that was? Oh, my. Anyway, listen to how she handles it. This, to me, another example of folks on the right or just people with common sense standing strong.
I'm literally in jeans and a t-shirt every day of my life.
Jeans are uncontroversial. Jeans are awesome.
Yeah, I like your jeans.
You look great in your jeans. I think I know how you're going to answer this, but I'm going to ask anyway. I mean, the president tweeted about the jeans ad, or Truth Socialed about the jeans ad, and that just seems to me like a very crazy moment for anyone, and I wondered what that was like.
It was surreal.
Mm-hmm. And it would be totally human. I would probably feel like thankful that somebody had my back in public, and conveniently some very powerful people had my back in public. And I wondered if you felt that way.
I don't think that it's not that feeling I didn't have that feeling, but I wasn't thinking of it like that, or like of any of it. I kind of just put my phone away. I was filming every day. I'm filming Euphoria, so I'm working like 16-hour days, and I don't really bring my phone on set, so I work and then I go home and I go to sleep. So I didn't really see a lot of it.
you've made a really good case for keeping your thoughts and your life separate from that work. But the risk is that, there's a chance that somebody will get some idea about what you think about certain issues.
She's really trying to bait the GQ lady, trying to bait her into get. You really ought to stand up. You really have a responsibility. Now, we know how she feels because she's not come out and done the Hollywood thing, which is, Trump sucks and I'm not going to be a part of this racist and all this other stuff. She's just stayed silent, which really, I think, tells us more than anything how she really feels about it.
And
the left wants to bit. First they preach Trump, but then they want you involved in everything.
And feel like I don't want to see Christie because of
not
that.
taking a bait.
Do you worry about that?
No.
The criticism of the content, which was basically that maybe specifically in this political climate, like white people shouldn't joke about genetic superiority. Like that was kind of like the criticism, broadly speaking. And since you are talking about this, I just wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about that specifically.
I think that when I have an issue that I want to speak about, people will hear.
Wow. That's powerful. Not going to take the bait. And you know what? I also know that if I feel like saying something and I do need to say something, people will hear it. I don't need you, GQ, to filter my words. That's saying something. That is another bit of good news for you. All right, folks. Yep, we got more. We're going to head over to the VIP over on the Freedom Fam for locals to record our next couple of conversations. If they want to come over and see it, locals first, locals exclusives. Again, just $7 a month to join us over there. We'll have that for you. A great conversation with the pastor that heads up that Across Nigeria organization, really shining a light on all the things that are happening there. You'll hear that conversation next week on the radio, and maybe even partially right here. But if you want to hear it and see it, be a part of it first, along with our Maha Health Update, the latest from Maha Missy. On the way, we'll get to that. Over at locals, justinbarclay.com/VIP, or just click the link in the chat to join us directly inside. We appreciate you. And in the meantime, wishing you the best. Make it a great one, folks. We're back Monday with more. God bless.